All right. Going overseas, going to Germany.
Oh, boy.
Frankfurt, home of the Frankfurter breach, in case you
Tell
didn't know that.
Harry to put on his earmuffs.
Yeah.
How do you say Harry's tears in German?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I have to Google that.
You have to ask the ref who was calling penalties in German.
Yeah, he just did the first one, and then he gave up. I feel bad for producer Harry. He had to get up early.
How many penalties did he have to learn, though? Like, was that the plan to just call the first one in German? They have to know all of them because you don't know what the first penalty is going to be.
That's
what was it? Was it a false start?
Unless the game's fixed, breach, which is a whole nother conversation. All right, let's get to that. I don't want to talk about how much German the referee does. What I do want to say is that the Dolphins, by the way, and this is producer Harry's headline. It's Dolphins fans. Dolphins cannot be trusted in big games, and I think that's fair because, as Breach, you noted earlier, they seem to falter against teams with winning records. First half, they were still on the plane. They weren't even on the bus from the plane to the stadium. And Breach, I'm just going to, on second down, I went back and looked at this because I was curious. Second down in the first half, this is what the Dolphins did on all their plays where they scored 0 points at halftime. And second and 10 on their first drive, 0 yards. Second and 4, they did get 12 yards. Then after that, second and 10, 0. Second and 9, 0. Second and 10, 0. Second and 7, -7. And then second and 5, 0. And that's how you get 0 points. You go to third down, and then you have third and long is my point. And then you get 0 points in the half. They look better in the second half. And then producer Harry mentioned this briefly when Prince and I chatted with him earlier this evening. Last drive of the game, Cedric Wilson and Tua seemed to be on different pages because Tua threw back shoulder and Cedric kept running. And then the snap, which I'm not convinced is entirely Tua's fault, but doesn't matter. The snap was botched and the game was virtually over at that point. Breach, can the Dolphins be trusted? Or are you with producer Harry that they cannot be trusted and this is not a team that is among the upper echelon Bengals type teams in the AFC, if you will?
I am going to have to be with producer Harry and say they cannot be trusted. I don't know if you guys remember, we did a power rankings podcast like 2 weeks ago about which playoff contender we trust, which top tier contender we trust the least. And mine was the Dolphins just because we have not seen them win a big game. And I'll feel a lot better about them once they win a big game. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the graphic. If you're listening to audio, the Dolphins are now 0-3 against teams with a winning record. They have scored 17 points per game in those 3 games. When they play teams with a losing record, they are 6-0, and they're averaging 39 points per game. So that's a 22-point difference. That is substantial. That says when the competition goes up, the Dolphins go down. They do not respond very well to the tougher competition. You know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, not the Dolphins. Dolphins are the opposite of that phrase. So I would definitely be a little bit concerned if I'm a Dolphins fan just for the playoffs, though. But if you look at their schedule, because they have a bye in week 10, but they come out and they play the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, the Titans. I mean, if they beat up on losing teams, which is what they've done this year, they're going to feel pretty comfortable for pretty much the rest of the season until they get to late December. So I don't think it becomes a concern until the playoffs. But, man, it's absolutely a concern.
Branson, before you go, let me ask you this question. Christmas Eve, 2023, week 16. Let's say it's in Birmingham, Alabama, neutral site.
Cowboys, Dolphins.
Dallas Dolphins. Who you taking? It's in Birmingham, Alabama.
Do the Cowboys have a winning record?
They both teams get transported from today to December 24th. So they have the records they have right now.
I was just looking at that, and I mean, look, the Dolphins are still 6-3, 4-2 in the conference. I'm probably taking the Cowboys though. They have like the Dolphins. I mean, you gotta beat somebody. You know, like you look at and their odds to like they're making the playoffs. You know, that's not. I don't think that's like a concern at all, right? I mean, they are. I believe.
While you look that up, Brinson, let me remind you, I know why Breach is going the angle he's going with this Dolphins team as I look at his bold predictions from August. Breach, Miami finishes last in the AFC East, so he's leaning into that.
With a 9-8 record.
I don't think so.
But they're not finishing in last. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, they would have to, everyone would have to get hurt for them to finish below the New England Patriots. They're -800 to make the playoffs, so that's not a concern. I am hoping that this has been updated since the end of it hadn't. So there's no odds for the AFC East. I mean, I think Miami's still the favorite to win the division, right? Like
I was going to ask me a follow up. Who do you like better, them or the Bills?
The Bills are so banged up on defense and just haven't looked right the last few weeks. And I would probably take the Dolphins because, as Breach notes, that the schedule is. I mean, look, You get your bye after the trip to Germany. You're gonna Raiders, Jets, Commanders, Titans, Jets. I feel like 3-2 there would be an absolute disaster, right? Like 4-1 feels like a really good bet unless somebody gets hurt. Then Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills. So I feel like worst case scenario, Miami is gonna get at like end up at 10-7. Like absolute worst case scenario, Miami is 10-7, and with the way Buffalo's playing, I think that's a possibility to win the division, or maybe the Jets could steal.
I was going to say, look at you guys sleeping on the Jets. The Bills aren't even in second place right now. The Jets are.
Right.
They'd only be a half game out of first if they win on Monday night against the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way the Chargers losing that game. Breach.
Oh,
my Super Bowl pick. Jeez, oh, pizza. All right, let me ask either one of you this. I don't care who answers because maybe producer Harry needs to weigh in. How do you fix an outfit that's 1-7 in the last 2 seasons versus teams with top 6 records in the NFL?
I don't know. I would actually like to hear what Harry has to say about the Dolphins.
Harry, are you disposed?
Reveal yourself, Harold.
I'm here.
Harold.
All right, disgruntled and beleaguered Dolphins fan.
Yes. I think a lot of it goes to play calling. I think last year in the playoffs, the Dolphins had the Bills beat in Buffalo. And with a third-string quarterback rookie who was drafted in the 7th round. And the reason they lost that game is because they could not get the plays into the quarterback fast enough. And he needed that time because he was a rookie drafted in the 7th round. Tua doesn't need that much time, but he does need to, I don't know, have enough time to be able to do all the motion he needs to get going and feel comfortable taking a snap that's not directly on center. Connor Williams is a great center, but he's good for at least one bad snap a game. And that was the worst possible time for it.
Sure
but
was.
It was something that was in theory catchable. I just think if you go back and watch that play, Tua is in the middle of gesturing when the snap starts. And he has to move his hands over to the side. He can't do it. So I think it's up to Mike McDaniel. As much as I do love him and think he's an amazing coach and a great play caller and an offensive genius, he needs to put his players in a better position to make those plays. And sometimes that might be dialing it back on how complicated they are in order to run a more simple offense, but stuff that you can still definitely do with the players we have, like, I don't know, a slant route. You like get that play in the playbook and make sure you can call it and get it done instantly.
I think the good news is that we're not talking about Tua being a problem because Tua is not the problem. Running game got going, Raheem Mostert. That's encouraging. And finally, I'll just say this. I will send you not 4, not 5. I will send you 6 Steelers first-round picks and Matt Canada. And that's it. That'll be your new play caller if you want to change play callers. I don't want anything in return, but that's the offer that that's on the table.
You know that like Matt Canada is like a negative first-round pick, so it's like you're only sending me like 4.
Well, he's in order to get rid of Matt Canada, he's attaching 6 first-round picks.
Correct. It's the Brock Osweiler deal.
Just the 7th, he's tanking, he's dumping Canada. It's just the 7th time in Tyreek Hill's career where he's had 10 targets and averaged less than 8 yards per reception, which I think is notable. Kansas City's defense did an awesome job bottling up a guy who is hell-bent on making them pay for the trade to Miami. It looks like, I guess, the Chiefs won the trade now, Harry.
Right.
You mentioned
it wasn't the Super Bowl, though. That wasn't it.
Right. The Super Bowl they didn't win the trade for him. You mentioned something before you were talking to me and Wilson about like the noise being a factor.
Yeah. So another thing is the play right before the fumble, which is, and there's a bunch of other, like any football game, there's a bunch of plays that could have happened way before this that we could be talking about. But these were the last 2 that everybody saw, where Tua just miscommunicated with Wilson, and not this Wilson, the player on our team, Wilson, and
the younger one,
basically missed a wide open throw to the end zone. He was trying to audible, and Wilson didn't hear him. And so crowd noise is a big thing with Miami. When you get the plays in late, when you get them and they're complicated, when they're routes that need to be discussed over across the line, you can't do that in hostile environments. It was a huge Chiefs, a majority
really loud in Germany too. Yeah.
Weirdly, yeah. And so not only are the 3 losses to winning record teams, but they're all 3 losses away loud.
Well, and that matters because you've now lost to the Chiefs and you've lost to the Bills, and it's this game makes it, this loss makes it really makes it much less likely that the Dolphins will go get the 1 seed in the AFC because they don't have that tiebreaker of the Chiefs. And by the way, we were remiss to point out, Wilson, I'm sorry if you're going to do this anyway, but the Chiefs won by a touchdown, and they scored a touchdown on defense after forcing a Tyreek Hill fumble and then pulling off what might be the play of the year on a lateral that ended up being like an Ed Reed style, like hyper aggressive lateral that went the other way.
Yeah, that was fun. Brian Cook, shout out to him. I was thinking, while he was high stepping it down the sidelines like Deion Sanders, I didn't go back and check, but I don't think he ran like in the 4.4s of the combine. He was running 4.4 as he was running away from Tyreek Hill. And again, my thought on that play was, after just acknowledging that it was fantastic, was that that's not on Tua. Like, we've had conversations for several years about, okay, Tua can't do this. Tua takes hits. Tua's sliding now. So I think those are all good signs. The defense, I thought, held up pretty well against Patrick Mahomes, who played much better when he wasn't under the weather. But I'm sure none of that makes producer Harry feel better, but could be worse. Could be worse.
I mean, yeah, it could be. But
could be a
like,
Giants
the best part is I get to stew in it because it's the Dolphins bye week, so I don't even get to like fix it next week. I just have to live with this loss for another week.